All right, back at it again. We are in Colossians 1:13. This is Dan, and yeah, that's my effigy, or you can burn it later. But there's the key that we're working with. You can make up your own key, but maybe in the next video, maybe this one. I don't know. Let's just go over why I even picked these colors real quick. I picked God with the blue because of the royal color and just that respect. The red, it's kind of like the red light flashing. It's a warning. It's something to really take note of. It's the brake lights. It's the check lights. It's something that it just says take note of this. That's why the red reads to the commands, the truth, the wisdom, the knowledge, the understanding. That comes in the orange. That's the colors I have in this pen, so that's why I chose these colors, because of this pen. But the truth, the wisdom, knowledge, it's just kind of a basic color. Whereas promises, I have them in green, just like spring promises, nice weather and life and renewal. So I picked green for that. Prophecy, pink, because it's different enough from red, but just kind of as, again, out of the options. Pink seemed the most appropriate. Yellow, just again, a highlighting emphasis. And then brown, dirt is the color of brown. So that seemed like that's appropriate for sin to avoid, effects of sin, and then the basic nature of man. And then obviously a black pen for underlining. So that's the colors there. Should have done that videos ago, but that's okay. Verse 13, he has delivered us from the domain of darkness and transferred us to the kingdom of his beloved Son. So this is something God has done. It's just so amazing when you stop and think about that. We were born into a domain of darkness. We were born into a slavery to the fear of death, and sin just holds our lives. And yet, because of Christ, going back to these other verses, that this continues the thought from verse 9, really, that with this knowledge of his will, the spiritual wisdom, the understanding, that we start to live a different life. We're strengthened in his power, and with his glorious might, we have that endurance and patience, giving thanks. He's changed our life because he has delivered us from the dominion of darkness. And so there he goes. He did this, and he transferred us to the kingdom of his beloved Son, in whom we have the redemption. We have redemption, the forgiveness of sins. So in whom, and I'm going to debate for a little bit here, but as I think about that, I can go back and at least underline these other parts in orange, because it's true for us. It's that wisdom, that knowledge. So God has done it, but it's also something for us, and he's transferred us to the kingdom of his beloved Son, in whom we have redemption. I'm gonna, because it's more focused on what has happened in our life right there, so I'm gonna highlight that in orange. The forgiveness of sins. I'm gonna actually, you know what? That's kind of I know you could make an argument one way or the other for how this works, but I'm going to underline forgiveness of sins in green, because that's a promise. We have to live that by faith. And I know all this is, but that's part of the promise of Christ's death and resurrection, is the forgiveness of sins. But it also is true, and it's knowledge for us to hold. So there's a double underline. But then that forgiveness of sins is God forgiving our sins. So we have redemption from that. So there's 13 and 14. But again, I still think this is so vital for our growth in him, to understand our position, our citizenship, the life we live, the kingdom we belong to, and the basic change of our nature in what he has done has freed us from all this sin, and freed us from this terrible focus on ourselves to a love for him and a love for others. that we wouldn't have before, and we would be lonely, and now we have joy. We can be grateful rather than complaining. We can have that contentment. We can endure and long suffer during hardships. I mean, these are all things happening in this passage, and that's what Paul's praying for, going back to verse 9, asking God that that's what we would be filled with, is this knowledge of his will with all spiritual wisdom and understanding, so that the effects of this is that we come to this thankfulness for he has qualified us to share in the inheritance of the saints in light. That is our inheritance, is the saints. It's Christ himself and others. That is the reward for our walk with the Lord, relationships. And that we're still grateful that he has delivered us from this domain of darkness and transferred us to the kingdom of his beloved Son. And that domain of darkness, you could even, that's a sin thing, so it's kind of an orange, but you could also double up with a little brown there if you want. You gotta make it look good, kind of. You see, my pen just got confused, so I gotta take that out. See, the pen things come out, but gotta set that up. All right, light it up a little bit so that you can see the orange there. Anyways, there you go. That is 13 and 14. Hope this is all being a blessing for you guys. Love you, and God bless you.